Well, hello there, and welcome to another installment of Chuck's captivating chat. It is hotter than Hades here in Los Angeles right now. I have my air conditioner going full blast, but as you can see from my hair blowing artfully back, I also have a fan on in front of me right now. And I apologize if there's any excess white noise from this fan, but otherwise, I would be um, melting in a puddle of sweat right now, like the Wicked Witch of the West with water thrown on her. But hello. It's good to be here as always. Today is my birthday. Today is my birthday. So I started out the day. I did a big session with a psychic intuitive I know, Jennifer Norton, who is just brilliant. And it's a great way to just do a little bit of a tune up, um, start my personal new year, my uh, next trip around the sun, so to speak. Um, yes, I'm 64 today. Might as well just own up to it. That's my age. Yeah, usually I pull my hair back, fix it a little. It's just been a hectic day today. I figure, oh, what the hell? You can see me windswept, and as I as I really am. That's part of the beauty of doing YouTube live and doing these videos. I have been assured it's not about perfection, but about just being who we are. And that's what people relate to. Well, I'm giving you who I really am right now. Let me see. I'm looking here for some comments. Oh, Ward, happy birthday, Chuck. You don't look more than 7 days older than the last time I was here. Well, thank you very much, Ward. I appreciate that a lot. Um, but yeah, I did a wonderful healing session this morning. And this is the day that I actually love social media, Facebook. It's fun. It's fun to wake up to a whole bunch of messages from people and greetings. And it's fun to get emails and get direct messages and videos and so forth and phone messages. It's a little bit of a double-edged thing, though. Much as I love it, and I'm sure some of you are in the same position as me. Yes, it's wonderful to receive all this love from your friends, but then you've got to find the time to answer all of these people and respond. And I found myself spending several hours today doing that. But it's all good. It's all good. And I want to respond back to people. But I did that, and I treated myself to a nice Sunday brunch. Sunday brunch, boy, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that was a slip. A birthday brunch. And, this is something I do once a year. I normally do not eat like this. I normally don't eat bacon, sausage, pancakes, eggs with cheese, syrup, uh, big pot of coffee, but I love that. Come on, most of us love it, whether we want to admit it or not. And I'm normally very health conscious, but on my birthday, I let myself have a big old fashioned traditional breakfast. Yes, a farmer's breakfast. Yeah, I guess that's a good way of looking at it. So I did that. And in my neighborhood here in Los Feliz, first of all, I dined at a wonderful restaurant called the Alcove. If any of you know of it, wonderful places to sit outside under the trees, under the big umbrellas. Unfortunately, it was also hotter than Hades, as I mentioned. So I'm sitting there eating my wonderful breakfast and answering Facebook things, and I've got sweat rolling off of me like I'm in a sauna bath. Hey, Joyce, thank you for joining. Joyce and I are going to talk a little later today because Joyce Petrus is a gifted astrologer, tarot reader, numerologist, and she's graciously going to do my solar returns for me today. So I'm anxious to see what it says. We're going to record it. It's going to be on her show later this week sometime. I might include it on my channel as well, but she's just fabulous, and I highly recommend her to people. A little nervous about what she's going to say to me. I hope there's some good news there. I'm feeling optimistic. The thing about me, my age is one thing, but I truly feel like someone half my age. I feel just as excited about my life right now as I did when I was 21. I'm one of these people where I feel like I'm always just starting. I'm always getting my hands into new projects, new endeavors. It was just about this time last year I started all of this YouTube stuff. I'm trying to think of a good word for it. This stuff, but it all started with my beautiful friend, Dr. Whimsy Anderson, who does a number of YouTube shows. You know, she's, in addition to being a gifted naturopathic doctor, she's also a gifted uh, intuitive, heart-centered remote viewing, tarot reading, and she had been after me for the longest time to do this and to do her show. And I was always like, oh, Whimsy, I can't go live. I can't do this. And she good naturedly twisted my arm just a little bit to get me into this, shall we say, this big candy store. Um, and it started when she called me up and said, well, you don't want to do my show. Well, I tell you what, let's do an interview. Can we record this? And I said, oh, sure. I'd done some interviews with her in the past, but never where it was a firm commitment that I was going to do this full time every week. So we did the interview. And then she said, that went really well. I'll tell you what, you're doing the show live today. Bye. So the first show was awkward as hell. I was having microphone problems, lighting problems, equipment problems, but somehow it worked out, and Whimsy has just been wonderful sticking with me. And needless to say, I do her show Taco Tuesdays every Tuesday, 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, just like this, which I do on Mondays. It all segued from that. From that, I was soon doing videos on my own channel, Chuck's Captivating Chronicles, and then took the plunge and started doing a Monday live stream, hence what I'm doing right now. And I've been loving it. And I just love it when you all come and join me. And, I don't even mind when you don't join me live, because I've been noticing from my numbers, a lot of people watch this later from the recording. And that's just great. It's just great. And I love the comments from people and the questions. And I need to sit down and respond to a lot of you, especially you, Ward, because you're so wonderful with all of your comments to me. And you're so gracious, so kind, and I appreciate it. And Joyce, love you too. And I look forward to talking later, doing your show, because you're fabulous at what you do. And you kind of fell into this the way that I did. And you're discovering that you love being on camera. So anyway, this is kind of a rambling free form right now for my show today, but that's the way it was last week. I had a whole list of things I was going to talk about last week. Usually I like to bring up things that I've talked about in my videos, expand upon them a bit, or answer questions. And I was not planning on it being the full half hour about my dear late friend, the movie actress Evelyn Keyes, my friend, the movie star. But what a delight that it did go in that direction. I was going to bring her up because she was the one who was very close with Rita Hayworth. They both were, of course, under contract. Columbia Studios in the 1940s used to sit under the hair dryers together, getting their nails done, getting their makeup done, body makeup, getting ready for their workday. Actresses at the studios often had to start about 6 in the morning. A lot more preparation than the male stars for that reason. A lot of hard work. So it ended up becoming a show about Evelyn Keyes, but it was very appropriate because of the 4th of July coming up, and Evelyn passed on the 4th of July. And I mentioned, well, just like Evelyn, to pick a day with fireworks across the nation, up in the sky, to send her off in a big way. That was very much Evelyn. Yeah, thank you. Let's see here. Sylvia, Whimsy threw you in the deep end, and I swam my way to likable stories. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, that's what Whimsy was always trying to tell me, because I've always had great love of old Hollywood and the movie stars and Lucy, and I have all these stories. As my late friend Bart Andrews used to say, who was a television historian and wrote many books, he and I both laughed about it. All this worthless information up in our heads, but yet we have found a way to make it very valuable information. And I just love sharing it with all of you. And I'm looking at comments here. Oh, speaking of swimming, any Esther Williams tales? Whoa. Okay, we're going in a direction here. I did meet Esther Williams one time, I will say that. And it was interesting because it was, let me see, this was back, I think this might have been around 1994, 95 or so. I got to think on that. It was around the time, I know the movie, That's Entertainment Part 3. Came out in 1994, but this was a box set of the music from part 1, 2, and 3, and this might have been a couple of years later. I could be wrong on that. I got to check the date on it, but anyway, at the old Tower Records on the Sunset Strip, the late great Tower Records, which is now long gone, as are most record CD stores now. There was a special signing of this box set. It was, let me see, it was Sid Charisse, June Allison, Ann Miller, and Esther Williams. So that's how I got to meet Esther Williams. That was quite a lineup of those four sitting at the table. And I heard that Donald O'Connor and Mickey Rooney were supposed to be there, but for whatever reason, were no shows. But I loved, of course, it was just a thrill. It's always a thrill. I'm always the kid in a candy store, and I meet these great old stars face to face, and you don't have a lot of time when it's at a signing, and you have to be respectful of the people in line. And pardon me, my contact lens here. You have to be respectful of the people in line and respectful of the people, the celebrities, their time. So it has to be very brief, but like my mother loved June Allison, and my mother's maiden name, I know we're not supposed to give information like this on public forums because of identity theft, but I guess I've let the cat out of the bag. My mother's maiden name was Allison. There was no relationship between the two women, but it was kind of sweet. And also at one time, the man who cut June Allison's hair used to cut my hair. And ironically, the man who cuts my hair now used to cut Shelley Winter's hair. And okay, I've told this story before. My mother was very proud of the fact that she looked like Shelley Winters, when they were both young and glamorous. So anyway, that's a tie in there. But yes, I met Esther Williams briefly, and I, found her to be, she was pleasant enough, but I also found her to be a little sarcastic and cynical. I heard that about her. She was talking about one of her costumes from one of her movies. It was like something in green sequins. And she said she saw it at a memorabilia auction or something, and how the sequins had all tarnished. And she was going, well, I've aged better than that dress. Remember she said that. And I was laughing a little, Ward, when you mentioned, do I have any June Allison stories? This is kind of tawdry, and it's not one of the nicer stories, but you may know this already yourself. I don't know if you read June Allison's autobiography. Not June Allison. I meant to say Esther Williams. Pardon me. Esther Williams' autobiography. It was that chapter about Jeff Chandler. Not nice. Not nice. She was obviously going for one of those kiss and tell autobiographies, which my friend Evelyn Keyes basically pioneered. She was one of the first to do one of those big tell-all autobiographies. But, having known Evelyn personally, and I talked about this last week, Evelyn did not have malicious intentions. Evelyn was a woman who went through extensive psychoanalysis, and she felt it was very important to just be honest and talk about everything and not hold anything back. And this included her sexuality and her affairs, because she just saw that as part of life. Esther Williams, this was kind of malicious. She basically outed Jeff Chandler as a cross-dresser. She was dating him. He was a big man, I think like 6'4" or something, very ruggedly handsome. But she discovered that he had a closet. This is what she claimed. There are some who have disputed this, but she claimed he had a whole closet full of custom-made evening gowns, dresses, size 12 high heels, hats, gloves, jewelry, everything. And she claims that even though their relationship was quite heterosexual, so forth, he had quite a fetish. He loved getting dressed up in his evening gowns and women's finery. And she claimed in the book that she found it particularly odd that he liked dresses with polka dots. And she said, well, a man that size should not be wearing polka dots. And then, which is, did she think Mr. Chandler looked better in her dresses than she did? I'm trying to remember. She might have had a catty comment in her book about that. I wasn't planning on talking about this today, but the chapter was kind of catty and mean-spirited. And I do remember at the end of the chapter when they had their breakup, Esther said, and this is her having the bitchy last word, Jeff, one word of advice before we go. A man your size should not be wearing polka dots. So that's what I remember. And Ward, I don't know if you ever read her autobiography. Let's see. I'm looking at comments here. You'll have to forgive me. It's hard for me to talk and read at the same time here. I need to get better at this. But Ward said, I liked how Miss Williams nailed Barbara Walters when she tried to get her to dish on an ex during an interview. Yeah, but I know. I think I recall that, but it's also interesting what she was willing to reveal. And I don't know. I think she may have had a vendetta against Jeff Chandler. Let's face it, it was not necessary to write that chapter, but she did. And I know that many times when stars write these autobiographies, their editors do pressure them to put some dirt in the book to help with book sales. Barbra Streisand talked about that with her autobiography, how her editors chided her and said, now, Barbara, you've got to put some blood on the page. Their words, you got to put some blood on the page. And Barbara was forced to be less private than she had hoped to be. She said she initially did not intend to talk about any of the men in her life as far as the affairs, relationships, but she ended up doing so. And so Esther Williams did that. So anyway, Ward, that's about all I can think of on Esther Williams, unless I bet you've got some stories. Maybe you can write and tell. As you said yourself, she could have been more tasteful toward Mr. Chandler. And some have insisted that Jeff Chandler was not a cross-dresser, and she might have even made that up. Anyway, she's not around anymore to verify one way or the other. So anyway, that's where that went. No, where was I? Let's see. I was going to talk about some of my videos this week. One of my videos was about Elizabeth Taylor, knowing the value of her name, and she was quite a giver. And I was going to talk about that because I was very lucky to be friends with one of her personal assistants, and he shared some things with me about her. He said that the world has no idea the extent of Elizabeth Taylor's philanthropy. He said she gave away millions and millions of dollars. And it wasn't necessarily just to big charities. It was often like little things, individual things. Like she would see in the newspaper a town needed an ambulance or somebody needed help with their tuition, things like that. What she did as far as her giving for helping individuals with AIDS was amazing. And it was not revealed until after her death. You may know that movie, the Dallas Buyers Club. Matthew McConaughey starred in it, won a Best Actor Oscar. And it was about, getting hard to access medications to people with AIDS or to people who could not afford the medications. And it was not revealed to after her death that Elizabeth Taylor was doing this herself from her home in Bel Air. Elizabeth Taylor was technically committing a felony. I mean, she could have gone to prison for this. And she said, I don't care. I don't care. I'm doing what's right. She was a courageous, gutsy woman of great principle. And my friend said she was very private about her giving. She did not want it known. And he told a story, and I hope I'm not violating Elizabeth Taylor because I love her very much. And I know she's been dead for over a decade, but just the same, I don't want to violate her, but I hope this is okay to tell. He said it was at our house for dinner. And he said, well, no, Elizabeth, you don't want people knowing about all of your giving, but is it okay to talk about this after you're dead? And she got angry. She said, no. Furthermore, you get up and you leave right now. And he was stunned. She said, you take your last bite of fish and you get up and you leave this table right now. And he was a little heartbroken. And he got up. And then she said, okay, sit back down. Sit back down. I was just making a point. I don't want it even talked about then. That's why I'm reluctant to say it right now. But she said, I don't even want it talked about after I'm gone. Giving should be private and personal. And the only times, and I mentioned this in a video I just posted, the only times she would allow her name to be used was because she was very aware of her fame, the power of her fame, and she knew the value of her name. And she knew if her name were further along a cause, a charity, then of course she would give her name to that. But that was the only time she would be public about her giving. I'm looking at comments here. I need to be better at doing this. This is like patting my head, rubbing my stomach at the same time. Yes, Miss Taylor seems like she'd have been amazing to have been friends with. I so agree with you. Yeah, she was willing to stick her neck out for what she believed in. She was a very passionate woman, as my friend confirmed, and obviously, of course, her perfume, Elizabeth Taylor's passion. Elizabeth Taylor was a Pisces. She had a big, gracious, generous heart, and she had enormous empathy. And yeah, let's see. Liz, being a child actress, must have learned early on to protect her own privacy. You better believe it. Oh yeah, when you're a child star, someone of her caliber, you have to grow up very fast. Fortunately, it robs you of your childhood too. She said that's why she and Michael Jackson had such a close bond, because both of them had been child stars, major child stars who lost their childhood. And she said that forever linked her with Michael Jackson. That's why they got along so well. But yeah, one of you mentioned she'd been a great woman to be a friend with. And I probably have told this story. This will be a good way to wrap up the show today. But I almost had lunch with Elizabeth Taylor. Almost. And this was through the assistant. He was going to set this up for us. This was when I was working in West Hollywood in the health nutrition industry. And about a block away from where I worked is a wonderful restaurant called Hugo's. And as it turned out, Elizabeth Taylor loved to go there for lunch. This was the last year of her life. So she was going to Cedars-Sinai to visit her heart doctors. And also her optometrist was in the neighborhood. And then after doing all that, she'd go to Hugo's for lunch. And my friend said, well, I tell you what, I'll set it up for her sometime. And I'm like, really? And I was like, this is where the shy part of me comes out. I mean, as you know, I get over it pretty quick, but I was very shy at the thought of meeting Elizabeth Taylor and very scared. And he said, "Oh, don't worry. She's very down to earth. You'll be fine." But then he said, "I got to coach you on a few things." "You got to coach me?" And he said, "Well, she's very European about table manners, very, very proper about etiquette, like literally things like knowing to put your napkin on. I think he said, be sure you put it on your left knee, and you know how proper dining and I'm not going to go into it, but all the proper etiquette, table manners, very, very important." He said, "Whatever you do not talk while you're eating. She believes in absolute quiet while you're eating." And he said, "Do not discuss her personal life, such as her husband's." Okay, that's fair. But then he said, "Do not discuss her movies." And I was like, but I want to talk about A Place in the Sun, and I want to talk about Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and I want to talk about Cleopatra, and I want to talk about Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And he said, no, she will slam the iron gate on you. She does not like being asked about those things. That's an annoyance. I said, "But what do I talk about with her?" He said, "Talk about life." And he said, "Oh, she loves it when you compliment her on her skin. Tell her what beautiful skin she has, how young she looks, how pretty." Which I was fine with that because it's the truth. She was beautiful. She was beautiful. I wanted to see those violet eyes for myself. Oh, and this was the thing he said to me. And forgive me if I'm repeating a story I've told before, but it's still cool. I wear this ring. This was my mother's ring. I had a jeweler resize it and make it into a man's ring for me. And I've worn it ever since she died 21 years ago. And just little itty bitty little baby diamonds in this, no big deal. And he said, her assistant said, "Oh, don't worry about that. Elizabeth loves any kind of diamond, So show her your ring. Talk about that." And I said, "She'll want to talk about this little ring?" He said, "Yeah." And then I thought, I would love to take off my mother's ring. Oh God, this is not coming off. Take off my mother's ring and hand it to her and say, "Miss Taylor, I would be so honored to know that my mother's ring made it to the hands and the fingers of Elizabeth Taylor. My late mother would be in heaven, ecstatic, knowing you had her diamond ring on." And I don't know if I could have asked her to have tried it on her finger or not, but I think that's what I would have done. And I have to look at comments here. Let's just talk about Roddy McDowell. I had lots of friends with folks who otherwise clash. Yes, that's true. Roddy McDowell was like the big keeper of secrets. And boy, you want to talk about eclectic friends, mostly women. He had friends like Dolly Parton, Carol Burnett, Elizabeth Taylor, Mae West, Betty Davis. I mean, it was so diverse. But it's my understanding these women loved Roddy McDowell because they knew their confidences, their secrets were safe with him. But let's see, I need to read the rest of the comment here. Miss Taylor and the first Mrs. Burton set aside their differences to tend to him in his last days because they both adored him. Yes, that is absolutely true. That's absolutely true. You're reminding me also of the story of when Spencer Tracy was dying, and Mrs. Tracy and Katharine Hepburn together formed a friendship, and they together took care of Spencer toward the end. And Catherine, in turn, became very close friends with his daughter. So that reminds me of that right there. Oh yeah, Ward, thank you for loss of my mother. Yeah, my mother, God, it's hard to believe. My mother would be this blows me away. She'd be 104 years old if she were alive now. You know, I believe that people on a soul level pass when it's their time. I think my mother had actually reached a point in her life. She had done what she wanted to do. Things had wound down. She was in poor health toward the end. And she was quite okay with transitioning. And, I don't know if I told this story or not last week. I guess this has to do with the 4th of July, because it was the 4th of July, 2003. I saw my mother for the very last time. I even have a photograph taken of us. Not only is it the last photograph, it's literally the last moment, literally our last moment together. I went back to visit, and of course, she was very ill at this point. And my father was out in the car with my suitcases and everything. He was going to drive me to the airport. My sister was there. And just before I went out the door, I just posed with my mother one last picture. And that was literally the last time I ever saw her. And I knew it was going to be the last time. I knew it was going to be the goodbye. I was okay. It's tough, but I was okay. And she passed away 5 weeks later. She passed away August 9th. And interestingly enough, that was when Mars was the closest it had been to Earth in something like 80,000 years. It was so close, you could actually see this big pink star up in the sky. That was Mars. And I will never forget, it was a hot, balmy night. And I was living in a 4-story apartment building at the time. And I remember just going up on the roof of my building and just sitting there, looking at the sky, looking up at that pink star. My mother was she had lots of anger. She had lots of rage. She had passion. She was bigger than life. She was like a opera diva, And so I just I said last week, it was so like Evelyn to go on a day where there was going to be fireworks all over the nation. Just like, yeah, give me a big send-off, fireworks. Well, it was just like my mother to pick the day Mars was the closest it had been to Earth in 80,000 years, probably for another 80,000 years to do her big send-off. But yeah, it's okay. I feel my mother's presence with me a lot. I'm very sensitive to souls around me, something I admit to. That was something else Whimsy got me to do. She wanted me to talk about that. And I said, Whimsy, people are going to think I'm a frigging nut. No, people have been very responsive to me. I do professional psychic intuitive readings for people now. Whimsy got me into that because she said, Chuck, you have the ability, you have the gift, you just have to come forward with it. So I've been doing that thanks to her. But I feel my mother a lot. In fact, I felt my mother the day after she died. And the best way I can describe it, how when you have your back turned and somebody's in the room, their energy so well, you can feel them behind you. That's the best way I can describe it. You feel a spiritual energy in the room. And I know, we know loved ones' laughter. I knew my mother's laugh. And I could just feel my mother laughing and laughing and laughing and just like, this place is incredible. Don't be sad for me. It's wonderful on this side. It's so good. And I'm out of that body and I'm free. It's wonderful. So that's the thing I got the next day. So anyway, I thank you for saying I'm sorry about your mother, but I just had to throw that in. It's not necessarily sad. It's not necessarily bad. Yes, it's sad when you're not going to see them again. But the beauty is I can assure you, our loved ones are with us. And even our pets come back to us too. I promise you that. You can call for them. They'll be with you. You can feel them. You can feel them. We can all do this. Let me see if there are any other comments before I go. Oh, thank you for your sweet things. Thank you for saying, oh, you're cool too, Chuck. Thank you. Yeah, my mother had me really late in life, very late in life. Yeah, I'll tell you something interesting. My beloved sister, and I'm going to talk with her later tonight, being my birthday. We're 14 years apart, and we're only siblings. My parents realized the time was running out. And if they're going to have that second kid, they better hurry and do it. I'd always thought I was an accident, but it was after my mother died. My father opened up to me a lot after my mother was gone and admitted a lot of things to me. I guess figuring I'm grown up now, I can be told stuff. But he said, "No, you were an accident. We planned you. We planned you. We just knew we had to get hurried with it." And I found out I was also a brokering chip, so to speak, because my mother wanted her dream house. And she said, "I'll have another kid if you build me my house." Oh, well, whatever it took to bring me into the room. Let's see. Oh, Pam. Hi, Pam. I'm glad you're here. I need you to send me Sasha photos for a project. Oh, you bet. We'll be in touch. We'll talk. Pam of Pomona remembers. She's another one of my dear, dear friends. Gifted psychic, gifted heart-centered remote viewer, tarot reader, beautiful human being. She's such a friend to me. And it all started because of this, what I'm doing right now. I had her on my show a few months ago. She was my guest. I need to get back into doing interviews because I love doing interviews. We did an interview together and we hadn't known each other. We just started talking and talk about serendipity, talk about past life connections. After the interview was over, I shut off the live stream, but we still had the camera going. She and I ended up talking. What was it, Pam? 4 hours, 5 hours? And I have just loved her dearly ever since. I'm not going to go into a lot of personal stuff right now, but I had a little heartbreak last week, relationship thing. I'm not going to go into it. Everything's okay. But she was so gracious with her time and talking to me on Saturday, and it went so far and helping me to heal and I think you can see I'm in a much better place right now. And I give credit to people like Pam, Joyce Petrus, my friend Jennifer Norton, my friend Anastasia. You've seen her on the show a few times. I'm very lucky. I'm surrounded by some really brilliant women in my life. Women are very nurturing, very intelligent, very intuitive, and I'm just thankful. Yeah, my life today can be summed up in 2 Beatles songs. Was that When I'm 64? Will You Still Need Me? I don't know. I forget the lyrics. But the other Beatles song, I get by with a little help from my friends. And I've been thinking about that a lot. Thank you, Pam, for saying I look amazing. Well, and Faye, thank you. What a sweet thing to say. You're definitely an advanced soul. Well, I try my best. I try to just be me. I try to just come here with a sincere, open heart and start talking to you. And I've often thought I need to do more of these live streams and maybe less pre-recorded videos, because when I get on here and I start talking, I feel the collective energy of all of you. And also when I'm in this longer format, I can feel the channel come through me. And like I said, I just write a few brief notes on a piece of paper and I just start talking. And that's even the way I do my videos, because of all this, as I said earlier, all this worthless information in my head about Hollywood history and so forth, and Lucy. It's just there. You put a camera in front of me and I can start talking. The big mouth. Let me see here. Another comment here. Oscar Wilde said to be yourself since everyone else is taken. Yes, that is true. It's absolutely true. I'm trying to think who else said I'd rather be a first-rate version of myself than a second-rate copy of someone else. Might have been Billie Holiday, might have been Judy Garland, might be several who have said that. Because I'm finding when I'm looking up these great quotes online, when I need a quote, they'll be attributed to different people. I think it gets convoluted after a while, but hey, whatever. Great quotes are out there for us to learn from, and evolve from. So yeah, I'm toying with the idea of maybe doing more live stuff like this, and um, basically just finding what this is going to be. It was even said to me a while back that um, shows I do months from now, a year from now, probably are not going to have much relation to what I did earlier. So I just believe things have their own life and they evolve as they're meant to evolve, and I just try to do it with the intention of it being for the highest overall purpose. And oh yeah, I always promise a Lucille Ball story. So about to wrap up here, but I saw something funny today. Actually, uh, Lucille Ball and Vivian Vance, when they were rehearsing I Love Lucy, they like to just be casual. They did not dress up. They would wear old clothes. It was not unusual for Vivian to be up in a pair of jeans and a plaid shirt or something. And Lucy would look about the same. No makeup, hair not done or anything. They didn't care. They just wanted to focus on rehearsing and putting the show up. And William Frawley was chiding them, hey, you two look like trash. Don't you ever dress up to fix yourself up a little? And anyway, one day he came to them and said, we've got some visitors to the set today, and they want to meet the two of you, and they want to see what a couple of bona fide movie and television stars look like. And of course, they looked like hell. And so Vivian and Lucy rushed off to their dressing rooms, put on some makeup, put on dresses, fixed up their hair, came out, only to hear Bill Frawley say, I just wanted to see if you two could get yourselves together. Look decent for a change. And that made me laugh out loud. I was reading a story on my phone today while I was having my audacious birthday brunch and I think my third cup of coffee. Maybe that's why I'm so caffeinated right now. So anyway, I just see a lot of lovely people on here and birthday wishes, and just thank you, everybody. I love you right back. Love you right back. And let's see, I've been on for about 42 minutes now, so I think I'm going to call it a day right now because I'm going to be talking with Joyce Petrus and getting my solar return. Find out what that's going to be. So anyway, I love you all. Please like and subscribe my channel, Chuck's Captivating Chronicles. I thank you for all of your support. And let me see if, oh yes, Ward saying sayonara, Ward. And yeah, she pointed out, it's true, Lucy and Viv always look better than Bill Frawley. But that was quite a little prank he played on them. Okay, so anyway, I shall see you next week, same place, same time. Goodbye.